Once upon a time in Amoneke village, lived King Odibo and his wife. They had a son together called Obinna. Obinna was their only child, as they tried to conceive again, but they could not have a second child. The king accepted it and remained faithful to his wife. He was not interested in getting married to any other woman. Obinna grew up to be a very handsome prince. All the village maidens loved him, but he was arrogant, proud and stubborn. He was disobedient to his father and extremely rude to the people who were not from the royal family. There was a day that one of the servants poured a little water on Prince Obinna by mistake. Even after the servant fell on her knees and apologized to the prince, he slapped her and hurled terrible insults at her. Unfortunately for the prince, the king saw this and told Prince Obinna to apologize to the servant. But he disagreed and walked out of his father. The time came for Prince Obinna to choose a wife, and his father told him to pick a woman from their village. The prince overlooked all the maidens in Amoneke village. He didn't pick any of them, and when his father asked him why, he told him that he didn't like any of them. The king was sad and tried to convince his son to just pick a wife from one of the maidens, but he was adamant and didn't listen to his father. One afternoon, while he was taking a walk in the forest, he saw a beautiful lady. Her skin was radiant. She had a very good body shape. She was extremely beautiful. He quickly approached her and took her home to his father. It was quite strange how she quickly agreed to follow him home without knowing who he was. He introduced her to his father as the lady he wants to marry. His father looked at her and noticed something. He noticed that she didn't have the mark that the other maidens of Amoneke had. He tried to ask her who her parents was and where she was from, but the prince cut his father short by saying how much he loves her and how soon he wants to marry her. He felt that since he was the prince, he could marry anyone he wants. Prince Obinna told her to stay in the palace. The king and his wife called the prince later at night and tried to advise him to take things slow. They told him to try to find out who the lady was before getting married to her. But the prince wasn't ready to listen to his parents. He kept ranting about how much he loves her and how he wants to marry her the next day. The king was sad by the attitude of the prince and decided to give him what he wants. The next day, the king called the elders and arranged everything necessary for the marriage. The prince was extremely happy. The king still tried to talk to his son for the last time, but the prince got angry and walked out of his father. The prince was so in love with her that he didn't even bother to ask her for her name. All he wanted was to marry her. It was time for the marriage ceremony, and they decorated the lady he wanted to get married to. After the major wedding event, right in front of the people, the lady turned into a huge python and wrapped the prince with her body. He shouted and screamed. The villagers that attended the wedding all ran away. The king and his warriors fought and injured the snake, but before she let the prince go, she paralyzed him from his waist downward. The prince was in pain. They called the medicine man, but there was no solution. They tried other medicine men, but no solution as well. They had to consult the oracle to know what kind of human being the lady was. The oracle looked at the prince and shook his head. He asked the prince what the name of the lady was, but the prince had no answer to it because he realized he was extremely excited that he didn't bother asking the lady for her name. The oracle told him, "If only you knew her name, I would have helped you. From what I see, she is from Imeala, the underworld, and they usually have different names for each of them." The prince and his parents were shocked when they heard this revelation. The oracle helped the prince to neutralize the pain, but couldn't help the prince walk again. His father, the king, was very sad. The prince apologized to both his parents, but the deed had already been done. From that day on, everyone looked at the prince with pity. No woman wanted to marry him. He couldn't even have a child if he got married. The prince was lonely and sad. He began to regret all his actions, but it was too late. We don't know this, but pride, arrogance, and disobedience can lead to one's downfall. It can cloud one's judgment and lead them to make reckless decisions. Imbibing a humble spirit and following wise advice and teachings can help lead us on the right path and save us from future regrets. The end. If you enjoyed the story, please like, share, and subscribe.